Hey, Texas Values friends, Jonathan Saenz here, president of Texas Values. I'm on the floor of the convention hall here in San Antonio. The Republican Party of Texas is having their state convention. It's about every 2 years that this event takes place. A little bit bigger in a presidential year like this year, 2024. Close to 10,000 delegates from all across the state are here, and a lot of issue groups, including our good friends at Patriot Mobile. We've got Leigh Wambsganss here that's going to talk with us about some of the work they're doing, but also some local work happening in the community where you currently reside. And I know it's an issue that's where you and I connected.
That's right.
So, but if you're not tuned in yet, connect on our social media, send this out to some friends. Let's get some more visibility on this. And if you're not signed up for our newsletter, go to txvalues.org so you can find out more about the work we're doing. And so, Leigh, it's good to see you here. Not a surprise that you would be here. Patriot Mobile always has a good presence at these events. But, you know, like I was mentioning, I think it's fair to say that it matters a little bit more because it's a presidential year.
Oh, absolutely. We always have a lot more, interest. The voting turnout is always bigger in a presidential year. But, we also need to remember that every election matters. Everyone says this is our most important election of our lifetime. Every election is the most important election of our lifetime because we have to live with the consequences of every election. Every election has consequences.
No, there's no doubt. I had my oldest son here on the convention floor with me yesterday. His first year to vote. He turned 18 a couple of weeks ago. He's going to get to vote in his first election, which is going to be the presidential election. So pretty exciting there. But, yeah, we've got school board races that are going on at times. We've got city council races. A lot of people don't pay attention to, but those can matter. Tell us a little bit about Patriot Mobile for the people out there that are still not familiar with it. And I'll let you take the mic.
Absolutely. So Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider, and they say, well, explain how that works. What is that? We get that you give money to Christian conservative causes, but what are you? We are a cellular service provider. We're on all the same towers nationwide, 4G, 5G of the major networks. The difference is we take a portion of every dollar that we make and we give it back to Christian conservative causes. And one of the causes we give to is a separate legal entity for the lawyers out there. It's called Patriot Mobile Action. And we're working really hard in Texas right now to defeat Dade Phelan and get David Covey elected.
No, we're familiar with that race. Disclosure, Jonathan Covey is David Covey's older brother, and Jonathan Covey is the legislative director, policy director for Texas Values. So we're familiar with that race. But, you're talking about Patriot Mobile Action. Y'all have sponsored our events at times. Y'all have been very supportive. We've done some work together, and you were mentioning before we start a little bit about your background. No surprise, you were in the media. You were a television anchor before you settled in here in Texas. So I'm sure you appreciate the value of doing interviews, getting more visibility, but sometimes the local issues get forgotten. Carroll ISD in the Southlake area, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, that's where you and I first met.
That's right.
And thankfully, we've got some more better leadership now there. A lot of that's, because of the work you've been doing. But, now that there are good people elected on that board, now they're in much stronger ability to push back. And I know they did that. What happened recently with Carroll ISD, and how did they take some leadership?
Well, several things have been happening over the years as we took the majority. And by the way, Jonathan and Mary Elizabeth were there for our 2020 meeting. That's back when BLM was marching in the streets, and they were trying to pass the critical race theory in Southlake, and we made national news. And you were there at that first meeting, and you and Mary Elizabeth testified in public comments at that first meeting.
From my table at home.
Yes, exactly. And you remember that when people show up for you in the battle, right? You guys were there. We really appreciate not only that, but so many things you do, saving women's sports, all of those important issues. But in Southlake, going back to that, it did take years. We did win both of those, but we still didn't have the majority. So I just want to encourage people to keep going and never let up. What we've done over the years is pass common sense policies. The school board has done a wonderful job in Southlake. There are many other school boards passing wonderful policies. Once you get conservatives in there, it's amazing how the focus goes back on education and away from the crazy outside noise. But most recently, and I'm just really, really proud of the boldness of the Southlake Carroll ISD School Board. Recently, they have sued the Biden administration over his unconstitutional mandates on Title IX. Title IX was created to protect women in both education and in their sports, and Biden is trying to throw that out by throwing gender fluidity in it. I also want to give a shout out to ADF, the Alliance Defending Freedom. They are representing the Carroll ISD board in this lawsuit at no charge, and that is huge. It's a battle that needs to be fought, and leave it up to Southlake to be one of the first in Texas to step up. We're really, really proud. School board president Cam Bryan and the whole group down there, we're really proud of all of them.
You know, it's interesting, too, because for those of us that have high school football players, or if you just live in Texas and you follow a little bit, Southlake Carroll is synonymous with state championships in football, right? And there's a lot of great stuff out there. You've got the Gaylord Texan, and there's some really neat stuff out in Southlake. But the Southlake Carroll, I think you think about the size of it and the sports and all that kind of stuff. And so there's some visibility already there, right? And sometimes in those environments, it can be more difficult. Even though you've got conservatives, when you try to do the right thing, everybody gets nervous, oh, they're going to make the school district look bad. And so I'm proud that it's a major, huge school district that a lot of people know. And now we've got some leadership. And when those things come together, you're right, you can get some really good stuff done because people are like, oh my gosh, Carroll ISD is doing it? Maybe we should, right? And so Andrew Yeager's been a big part of that, and I'm so proud of the work that he's doing. And thankfully our governor and other people said, hey, forget about what the Biden administration is doing. So a lot of people are coming together on these. General. Yeah, and our Attorney General, we did an interview with him earlier. It's been so key to it. We're in the middle this week of runoff elections, and I just saw a Covey. So let's talk about David Covey, who's never been in elective office, not at the state level before, but he ran for chair of the Republican Party. He's done some other stuff and sort of established himself as a leader. His family is from that area in East Texas. A lot of depth there, and then a lot of criticism on Dade Phelan. Tell us why Patriot Mobile Action got involved.
Well, it's an interesting story because Patriot Mobile Action actually, as a policy, our bylaws prohibit us from getting involved in Republican primaries. And it took a board vote, and the board was unanimous in supporting David Covey because David Phelan so needs to go. And there are several reasons for that. I'll just give you a tiny example. I talked with Representative Oliverson at your breakfast this morning. He's the one who originally brought the U.S. motto, "In God We Trust," bill to the House. Well, the Democrat chairman of that committee refused to have that bill even be heard in the House. So Senator Hughes took it up in the Senate, and that's how they eventually got it through. That's just one example of one bill, and there are many. Everyone says, give me an example, thinking we don't do your homework. Well, I have a list, so yeah. The Democrat chair's issue is just too huge. This isn't a disagreement over are you 70% conservative versus 80% conservative. This is an issue of we do not want Democrat chairs, and Dade Phelan has failed us on that. Dade Phelan created a gun control committee, and he appointed Democrats to that committee. He also refused to advance the border security bill. I could give you issue after issue after issue that David Phelan has failed us on. He needs to be beat. And I want to tell your audience that there are several liberal lobbies throwing in. We just saw a $9 million figure coming into Texas from outside sources trying to get these more liberal Republicans to vote. Also, in the March primary, we went back and tracked the data, and we tracked for sure almost 3,000 Democrats that voted in that House District 21 race. And that's just the ones that have a Democrat voting history that you can track. There's a bunch that don't have a voting history that are Democrats. And that camp is recruiting the Democrats to come out and vote in the runoff. It's such a low turnout in runoff elections. This is critical to the future of Texas, that we get out the vote down in the Beaumont area in House District 21, and we get David Covey elected.
Well, and look, that's one of the reasons why delegates here at the Republican Party of Texas are voting so far almost unanimously to close the primaries. Yeah. So moving forward, I think that's something that you'll likely see in Republican elections and Republican primaries, but a lot of it has to do with that race and other races where, those people have bragged about it. They've gone on social media. And so, but this is the sitting Speaker of the House. That doesn't happen very often. This race, I think, is, you could argue, or is fair to say, is the biggest race of this runoff cycle. A lot of attention around it. To your point, a lot of money being spent. By the way, I don't know if y'all noticed this, but you see the way that Leigh sort of held the microphone. You can totally tell she's been in the broadcast journalism award. I had Michelle Tafoya on our radio show one time, and I always noticed how she sort of holds the microphone just like a certain way. It was just like you did. No, it's so funny. Anyway, that's just me. I notice that kind of stuff sometimes. But so we're in the middle. Well, we're close to halfway through early voting now. Main election day is Tuesday, May 28th. We're going to know a lot more after that. And to your point, Tom Oliverson has already jumped into the race. A lot of people think that Dade Phelan is done as the speaker, even if he were to survive this challenge in the runoff in his race. But we're going to see what happens. Let's go back for a second. The In God We Trust, we got less than a minute left. That's been a big project of y'all's. Tell me why that's meant so much to y'all to do that.
Well, first of all, we just really like positive messaging. It is our nation's motto. And quite frankly, this may be the only God message kids see in their school day or in their week. So it was really important to us. We learned about the bill, Senator Brian Hughes' his friend, and we just thought we would do it in our local school district where all of our executives live. By the way, all the executives at Patriot Mobile were active in Southlake Families PAC to flip our school board 70-30. So, and as God would have it, what the left means for evil, God turns it to good. And the news just attacked us over our presentation in Southlake Carroll. And so what resulted from that is that districts all over the state then were calling us saying, we want. So we were on the phone ordering more signs. And we got the frames from Hobby Lobby, so we're all conservatives in here. And,
everybody wins.
Everybody wins. It was really wonderful. And yes, we got a lot of hate, we got a lot of love, but every time the left attacks us, and the left attacks Patriot Mobile daily, our sales go through the roof. People know when you're being attacked, you're over the target. And we deal with attacks daily. And so we almost welcome them now. We're like, do we need to pay you for that attack? Because we got 200 sales out of that attack. So, and we're here at the convention supporting the delegates. These are the people, the grassroots, doing the work on the ground. We love our Republican delegates, and we want everybody to come by and see our booth and come have a good time.
Well, and Lord willing, if whatever happens in Washington, Senator Cruz is expected to make an appearance on Saturday with his new book. We'll see how that goes, if he can make it, if he's not held up by business. We've got one of the posters and framed In God We Trust in our office. Great job there. I agree with you. Such a positive American message. If we can't do that, what else can we do? And so you latch onto that and say, let's go as far as we can with this. And it's been fantastic and a great opportunity. And so, but I look forward to teaming up with you again. I know we've done some great work together. Our teams have, and we always look forward to how we can play a role. Glenn and everybody over there at Patriot Mobile, you guys are doing a great job. Leigh Wambsganss has been our guest today on this special segment of the Texas Values Report.